chaired and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
Despite over 39.62 billion naira that has been spent on ecological management in the country, there's still issues of flooding ravaging some parts of the country, and of course will be a focus. And up to Borno State, Maiduguri was very particular. The president visited the scene to have a first-hand assessment of the situation. The flooding disaster, and that have also been confirmed that over 30% have lost their life in the course of these casualties has affected over 500 people who have been victims of this situation right there at the Borno State. From all indications, it looks that the flooding has really destroyed some properties, which is yet to be confirmed by authorities. However, the governor, the management, and every stakeholders of this state have continued to do their best in the management of the scenario right there at the Borno State. Maiduguri most particular. A concern about the fact that the capital have been in such a worse hit so far with the collapse of the dam. However, the ecological fund that was established in 1981 is drawn from the Federation account, and this fund's disbursement process is managed by the ecological fund in office under the office of the Secretary of the Federal Government. But environmentalists and some pressure groups have questioned the manner in which the funds are being shared. They say that the challenges have continued to wreak havoc in these areas, despite over 3 billion naira that have recently been disbursed to some state. And of course, it's continued to cause a whole lot of magnitude of problems from the scenarios and all the scenes we can really see. It is very troubling. It is a very sad situation. And of course, we'll be looking at the move on the program right away that President Tinubu has moved to create a disaster relief fund. Well, my guest this morning is Honorable Cletus Obun, environmental activist and political activist. Thanks so much for joining us, Honorable, for our morning discussion. A whole lot of concern. The president came back to the country on Sunday. Just yesterday, Monday, he had to visit Borno State. And those who probably may feel that on hearing the sad situation, he ought to have suspended his trip to be back in the country to visit the situation. And the other entrepreneurs are saying it's not just about visiting the scene. Over 400 billion have been spent in the last 4 years in managing situations like this, but we can't really see where disbursement of government funds are really going to. What is your assessment about the president's visit to Borno State yesterday?
Well, let me say that the habitual complainants about governmental actions must first have to get themselves put in a position where they will understand that the art of governance is not a one-man show. We are not running a one-man business, and therefore nobody should make it look as if without President Tinubu in the country, Nigeria will collapse. It doesn't work anywhere. Good morning, Nigerians. Welcome to this show. This is my first appearance on this TV station, and I must say that I'm pleased to see that the media space is being opened and democracy is blooming.
Thank you so much.
Secondly, let me also say that the president's visit should be viewed against the background of the humanist dimension. He was supposed to leave for the U.S. immediately on landing Nigeria. But he had to cut short that. What he was doing abroad was to take care of the greater majority of Nigerians. The state in Nigeria was endangered, and that is why he has an alternate president, which is the vice president. Describe our constitution as a man who acts in the absence of the president. And you saw him wading through those floods. Immediately it happened. There is nothing that President Tinubu would have done that the vice president wouldn't have done. Not just that he's from the presidency, but that he's also from that state. A state he governed for 8 years.
There are those who also blame the vice president. When you were governor, you saw the situation of the dam. Probably, what were you able to do? Because from what indications it looked at, probably they only had this situation 30 years ago. So the dam has been in continuous debilitating stage, where management of government would have probably attention of government would have been fixed on that project.
Again, this is hypercriticism. It is excessive criticism, almost degenerating into cynicism. The reason is because natural disasters are bound to occur with the best of technology. All over the world as we speak.
Even with the signs and indications that the dam
dam going off is not the same dam that went off in western Nigeria, in the state of Zamfara. There is no dam there. A disaster is a disaster. That is why it is called a natural disaster. This one couldn't have been prevented. It could have as well just been overflowing. It's not even about the dam breaking down. It's not that it broke down. It is just the fact that the dam had issues. It could have been in its firmest form and overflowed.
So are you saying that we should really say 100% is about the natural disaster, not from the human angle, where probably
there are human errors even in the best of technologies? You get aircraft crashing, you get airspaces and the best of technologies crashing at every moment. When you find a natural disaster, what we should be looking for is how to prevent it. And one of those things is our continual decimation and desecration of the environment by, first degrading the soil surfaces, taking off the trees that hold the soil texture and profile, and of course blocking of drainages and building even on them. All waterways. Let me tell you this, there's nothing you can do about water. Man must learn this. Nature does not forgive. You people are reclaiming oceans. In no time, it can take you 100 years. People are going to pay for it. There is no way you can stop water from passing. There's no way you can stop nature from operating. All you need is give it its own space to flow, especially water. I mean, if the first one was destroyed by flood, and you still think that you cannot learn lessons from history and from time and space, then clearly you are bound to repeat history in a more tragic form. Man forgives sometimes. God forgives all the time. Nature does not forgive.
Because the reason we are asking the question and the concern is because we've seen sometimes carelessness from the management, probably from the part of government, also from the human angle, where people ought to take responsibility about some level of mismanagement of situations, disaster, a situation like this.
When disaster occurs as a form of reprisal on human inactivity or excessive activity on nature, it is understandable. You see the trademark matter in Abuja. People are told this is a waterway, don't build on it. You build on it and government destroys it, you say it's destroying means of livelihood. But you were warned that this is a waterway, don't build on it. People are warned this river will overflow this year because of this volume of water anticipated by NIMET. Yet people stay back there and see that that's the only place they can survive. So the human angle of it sometimes is so tragic and vexatious that you start wondering whether people have suicide, are having inbuilt suicide tendencies. That is, they are agents of suicide, in which you are told by this time between
June, was it a move to evacuate them? Because you can't just say they should move. You can't just start telling people to move from an area because of the danger coming in. There should be a move to create an environment where they can move to.
It's so ridiculous. Let me ask you. We are sitting here now and they are telling you that the train has missed its way and
it's different from a water that probably people are said they have been staying over 30 years. We've not had a situation of the collapse. It's different from the scenario where on the spot of assessment where someone said they should leave. So because if after 30 years it has not collapsed, probably anybody who probably have been managing the situation.
There is a prediction, and government says.
Do you feel that they understand the prediction? The people out there in Borno State, do you feel they understand the prediction?
Precisely, ignorance is bliss. This has not happened in our history, so it cannot happen.
Absolutely.
You've not seen Mpox before. We've not seen Ebola before, and say this thing kills, and you say you wait until the first person dies. It is the human nature to be resistant to anything new. That is what you are finding. And the casualties you find are those who refuse to move. So if government has given you warning, gone on radio, spoken in your language and say, water will come and take you down, leave the place. You are asking for helicopters and trains and buses to come and stand. Even at that, I can assure you, most people won't enter those buses to leave. Even when you give them temporal areas to say, leave this place, we are expecting that next week water will come and take you out. Please let us leave this. They will resist it. This is the nature of man. Watch your roads. You are going to see a market built up and you ask people not to come near the road. And that is where they find to do their business. That they can't stay even inside the market. Even the open spaces inside the market, they won't. It must be by the roadside. And then a trailer is coming, a truck is coming and fails its brakes, and then it runs over people, and government is blamed for not evacuating people from the roadside. And yet, when these were evacuated forcefully, you are being told how inhuman the government is. So you have this catch-22 situation in which you have a false dilemma created, in which humans do not want to think that their best duty is to protect themselves. You must be alive for you to do business. You must be alive for you to live in a house. And all that has been happening to us. So what is happening in Borno State was sufficiently disastrous. But I want to commend our military. I want to commend the president of Nigeria, and especially represented by his vice president, and all those who have responded to what is happening in Borno. It shows our humanity that Nigeria is not as bad as we have been presented to be. The Borno example is a perfect example of how Nigerians are still Nigerians and human.
Because the hardship is real, Honorable. We are bothered about the fact that if we're already having a situation where people are having to live in their normal environment and are still having to struggle with the economic hardship of the country, how much more we are having people that have been pushed to IDP camps. From the statistics from NEMA, they said it's already overcrowded. They don't have a space to be able to handle some of this population of people that have been displaced. I will understand the interventions by some international donors and organizations, but there are more to the fact that this is again taking many Nigerians back to a whole lot of hardship. And do you feel that probably with what the government and international organizations are donating, it will be a way to be able to also address the aftermath of this situation?
Yeah, the Borno matter should be seen as an extrapolation of what will happen to other places. And therefore, Nigeria should be prepared for such emergencies in other areas, not just in Borno State. As for our present situation, I think the reaction is perfect, near perfect, because the federal government have already declared we're going to bring the disaster fund. The international agencies have been called upon, and it has been sufficiently escalated in terms of media exposure of the situation. And given that the IDP camps have become a regular feature since 2015 in Nigeria, clearly the minimum democracy in terms of the health and economic implications of people leaving their homes and having to stay and depend on handouts, so to speak, on palliatives, on support, on relief materials. It is not anything that any African likes to do, and not to talk about people who are living in their homes and then being evacuated and dislocated from their ancestral bases. Those type of people will need special care, not just in terms of physical provision, but in terms of psychological disposition about how their present economic condition and their livelihood is about to be affected. Children who are supposed to go to school, those schools are affected and submerged. You're not going to build schools in IDP camps. You're not going to build hospitals there. So what that means is that you're going to move health workers to that place. It's easy to move food. It's easy to move clothing to the place, but it's not easy to build schools. I mean, those people are already going to be dislocated for almost the entire year because it's the beginning of the school year. So all these are the implications of what will happen, and that's why it is called a disaster.
A pre-warning sign. Even government has spent over 39 billion naira. For the fact that they have distributed over 3 billion naira recently to some state in a way of trying to signal them to be able to, ecological fund indeed, because this is also a practice of government under the office of the SGF. All of this has been what government are doing, seeing how they can combat. Do you feel that they are properly utilizing some of the funds that have been allocated to them? Because yes, we agree to the natural disaster. We agree to situations where humans can take really responsible. We can manage the situation. We can control it. But there are infrastructure that are decaying. Some of the breaches we are having, some of the infrastructure that are in place to be able to combat situations like this, not to be able to come up, are what government should be able to combat with. Do you feel that the funds that have been allocated, over 39 billion have been spent in terms of ecological management? Do you feel it is properly utilized?
I will tell you something today. I know enough to state that most of those funds have become personal funds of some people running those agencies.
And that's sad.
Third fund, Pension Commission, Ecological Fund. It's been here with us for more than 30 years under the military. They set it up, believing that the South is, for example, ravaged by erosion, gullies, and the effect of gully erosion was potential threat in which whole communities were going to be submerged. In the south region of Nigeria, given the swamps and the surge and the oil crisis, the forest and its desiccation, as we speak today, the Ikomabudu Road is impassable. It is a disaster of its own. And whole communities that farm in cocoa, banana, have used timber to become for them an albatross, a tragedy of sorts. It is impossible. So you now have to take 30, 400, 300 kilometers to return to a place that you would ordinarily use 10 kilometers. That is what is happening to the Boki people, the Ikom people, the Obudu people, the Tung people of Cross River State and those going to Obudu Cattle Ranch. A road built in 1980 by Shehu Shagari for people to access the ranch, one of the few semi-temperate zones that we have in this country. That road has now become impassable. I'm not saying it is bad, it is impassable. Now you come and take that up and juxtapose it with the floods by the river banks and those riverine areas, and then you now come to the conclusion that what is the ecological fund meant for and who is utilizing it? You are disbursing to who? Only recently rice was disbursed to states, and we saw what some states did with it. Some turned it into personal political campaign material in which they are labeled not as federal government palliatives but as personal political gains and what they call empowerment of their communities. That is what politicians turn it into. And yet, you come and talk about a very grievous matter in which there are consequences of fatalities. That is to say, people will die if these things are not done, if ecological fund is not properly done, which is what has happened to us. You've seen several places collapse. You've seen bridges collapse. You've seen people cut off from modern civilization and even getting health care and even getting support from anybody, from anywhere. You can't even access them. Only recently, we had an overlap of the Ambazonia crisis in Western Cameroon around the ranch area between Bumaji, Okwa, and Okwango, where you had people running into the place. And the Nigerian army wanted to access the place. They could not, even by air. They couldn't because there's no place to land in this rainy season. So when you have that, and then you have the ecological fund, which is supposed to be intervention fund for such emergencies as situations, and then you are looking at people sitting in such offices and believing that God have blessed them to come and loot and divert such funds. I think clearly that there is a case of misappropriation, diversion of funds, for which in other countries such people will be languishing in jail.
And now from all indications, and now it looks at, just as you've shared, that mismanagement of resources has also been a concern. What is the role of NEMA in all of this? Because we've also seen efforts made by NEMA in terms of managing the aftermath of every situation. But some person said, with all the locations at their disposal, they are not doing enough. They are still yet to rely on international donors and organizations. But from your own assessment, what do you feel can be the description of what NEMA ought to always do in terms of managing situations like this? Because away from just pushing people to IDP camps, we can't really tell much that they're doing.
They are overwhelmed. First, by paucity of funds, poor funding. One of the things you should know about our country is the disaster called human agency. That is to say, that people put in those positions, even with all the availability of funds, sometimes are frustrated even by the release of such funds. I can give you a practical example. Government establishes a university, a college of education, and the standing rules are clear. You have a takeoff grant of this X amount, say 10,000 naira, and the money is waiting in the account. To access the 10,000 naira to take off a school, in a school year that is beginning in October, this is September. To access the 10,000 naira, you have to pass through about 5 agencies, writing a letter of 2 paragraphs to say approved. Release money for the building of classroom blocks and teachers' offices, or the provost office or administrative block. Just that letter to say so takes you 7 months.
So the bureaucracy.
So bureaucracy, and bureaucracy. And then you find here in NEMA, it is National Emergency Management Agency. Emergency Management Agency.
Those should be at the
That means that once it should be 24 hours response.
And now these relief funds move by the president, because the president made that commitment yesterday that the federal government will have to introduce relief funds in terms of disaster management. Do you feel that it's also in a way of trying to empower NEMA to be able to be responsible enough?
Disaster relief fund, you are dealing with NEMA. So multiplying after the Rosella report, for you to multiply agencies is just to say that the ones existing are dysfunctional or not functional, non-functional.
So you feel that they should rather make this body...
Put the funds to NEMA and enable NEMA, energize NEMA. If it is change of personnel, do just that. Because we have enough agencies to take care of every situation in this country, because it was all anticipated and well articulated and put in place. So that I don't like this. If I said even in medicine, we have moved from curative medicine to preventive medicine. So also it should be with relief materials. So also it should be with disasters of this nature. We shouldn't be reacting. We should be responding. There are 2 different things. Okay. Reacting to situations and responding to them are different matters. If you have an agency already established with funding and budget heads, you should be responding to matters. I ask you, even in terms of security, what does it take Nigeria? We have 6 geopolitical zones. We know the flashpoints where they are. Why are we not having drones in these areas to do surveillance for us, especially in desertified areas like Northwest and Northeast? What does it take for us to have combat helicopters to assist ground forces in terms and reinforcement of other forces, security agencies? Once you have intelligence from the Nigerian Intelligence Agency, from the DSS and others, and the military have to move in, there should be aerial and ground support for all this. Does it take anything for us to know? It is cheaper for us to acquire those equipment to do surveillance and do combat than for us to go and be pretending that our soldiers were ambushed. How can our soldiers be ambushed in a desert? What is happening to our drones? What does it take to do it? What are you calling every governor gets what you call security vote. What are they for? If you put security vote of 6 governors, of the six governors in the south, of the 7 governors of the southeast, they can get at least 1 combat helicopter or 2 in a year. And if they do that in 4 years' term, you have 4 of them. That means every ungoverned space can be manned. Does it take any turnkey technology or any clairvoyance to deal with this? Does it take that? We have the money to do that. What are you doing with security vote if the security vote cannot secure your area and your people? So I think that clearly even these disasters can be manned, because even in dark spaces, we have enough technology now to see these things coming and evacuation done.
I mean, when I begin to consider the fact that some of these ideas of government are always fantastic, good ideas, just as the president has moved for the relief fund, but we are having a particular issue about implementation. We are having an issue where all of those grammars can be moved from paperwork and from statistics down to implementation. Because we are concerned about the fact that this may be another room to create for investment. We've seen different fantastic initiative of government. We've seen fantastic idea of government in a way to trying to make life easier for people. We've seen school feeding programs that was marred with a lot of corruption. We'll find all of those issues. Are you not bothered about a capacity recruitment, human recruitment to handle some of these initiatives? And now that the president is making a move to create, disasters fund management, do you feel that probably may be another room for investment?
We have in this country men who have proven themselves to be above board, like Caesars, who have their beyond suspicion. I can name them for you here, who can man these agencies and give us results. We saw TEDFund and we saw PTF here under Buhari. The same Buhari came to become president of Nigeria and couldn't even make those people function. We have roads. We used to have drugstores. We used to have a military PTF. Buildings are still existing, just like you have the third fund which was generated by the military. How come it is no longer functional? How come people can walk in there, take off funds, and walk away free? Because there are no repercussions and there are no consequences for these actions of individuals. And yet we have individuals who can handle these things and do them perfectly because they have had a past.
I thought it was going after politicians for recruitment.
Yeah, when we say politicians, who is a politician? It's a medical doctor who is a senator. It's a lawyer who has become a minister. They are all professionals. That is not what I talk about. These people have character and have a pedigree. They have a past from which we can read. Put a Jega, for example. Put Aminu Obafemi, who has become like an encyclopedia for curriculum in Nigerian educational system. Put a Professor Kavineta. Put a Mikey Guinea. We have these people all over the place. Put them to take charge of these areas. We have them in Nigeria. There are others who are staying abroad, but when they come here, they are corrupted by the system. But there are those who have grown up here that can face this system and its pressures. So of us are staying here. We can handle these people and handle them. I will just give you an example of a TED fund. We are going to take battles with them because it is going to become a very serious issue that government provides funds and people sit on those funds insisting that they must take part of them before they release the funds to people. Those things must stop. So of us are not looking for jobs for jobs' sake. It is to contribute and add value to our country. It is never ever at any time to survive. Politics does not go in the forest. I come from a forest area, so there is no way I'm going to come into government for the sole purpose of making myself look comfortable. It is not possible again at my age. I didn't do that as a youth. I can't do that now. I have a duty to my country to make it work. We can't be running to other countries, say in Canada, in America. Which America? Who is there in America? Most of the people making America work are Nigerians. Most of those making Europe work are Nigerians. Some of them are being trusted enough. They are trusted enough to the point where they are even elected to British Parliament, and British positions are the equivalent of local governments here. Nigerians are there in their government. Presidents of America take Nigerians to work for them. So what are we discussing here? So if it is human capacity, we have enough. If it is natural resources, we have them enough. If it is wealth, we have enough. It is about deployment. It's about utilization. It's about functionality. It's about taking responsibility and giving it to the right people to deal with the situations as we find them.
All right. Everyone, we'll just be going on a quick break, and once we return from that break, we'll now be diving into the issues of the state of the economy. We are more concerned about the recent statistics of inflation, which is over 32%. I mean, we felt a whole lot will be dealt with, but it looks that the situation is getting more tougher for Nigerians. A bag of rice now is heading towards 95,000. Projection of a fuel, even from Dangote Refinery, is getting towards 950, and some areas 1,000 naira. They are concerned about the whole state of the economy, and it looks that now that the president is back, we feel many Nigerians are saying that the president ought to start paying attention urgently to the state of the economy, that lives are getting hard, transportation is over increased at 50%, and the inflation. We're looking at that very shortly after this break. Please stay with us. Excess of government is to make lives better, protecting the properties and protecting the lives of better Nigerians, and that's the reason why we have an elected government in the federation, in the state, and now to the local government. There are a lot of concern about the economy. Every nooks and crannies of this country, the eyes are fixed in one thing, and the issues is the economy. The state of the economy is a problem. We're trying to follow, to track what probably may be the development so far, but it looks that every time we're trying to track some of these development, we are still seeing inflation on the face. Recent statistics by the Nigeria Bureau of Statistics have confirmed that a good time is coming, but in real essence, the markets where every Nigerians are buying things from, as they are saying, they are still meeting high prices of commodities. A bag of rice is heading towards 95,000. Commodities like yam, commodities like tomato, pepper, and all of that is a whole lot of concern. All of this falls back to the fact that there are some policies of government that have been taken that have likely affected the state of the economy. Honorable, this is a government that probably told Nigerians from day one they will hit the ground running. Removal of subsidy is trying to put a lot of Nigerians towards untold hardship. How do we begin to substantiate this, that the president has said is for good, is for a better decision that I took the removal of subsidy, but it looks that lives of Nigerians is at danger. Are you bothered?
Well, we have overburdened this country and this argument on the economy, and because we are addressing the public, we are not in a lecture, we are not in a seminar. So I'm going to reduce the brass tacks. I'm not going to go into the micro and macroeconomic indices and statistics, and I want to break it down to what lies it so that Nigerians listening to us will take home. Because what the Nigerians understand by economy is how much is a cup of rice, how much is a meal of rice, how much is transportation from Nyanya to Secretariat, how much do you move from Boko to Vandikia, how can I move from Ikom to Obudu, how do I get from Bomosho to Ibadan? You need to get those statistics. That is what we should be dealing with. So when Bureau of Statistics gives us those figures, I am one of those who have never believed them. Because I've never seen them in my market in Bumajimaka, and we have the largest banana hall on the West African sub-region. We have the finest brand species of pineapple in Omepan. We have the big and largest hall of timber anywhere, even from the Congo down to Cameroon in the Takamanda forest. Through the Kwango forest up to the Oban forest, there is no such timber that exists except in these areas. So if it is in terms of economics, we need to deal with the markets in these areas. How much is a bunch of banana in my village, and how much is the bunch of banana? And it's a large market that bananas are exported up to Kano, taken up to Kano, Port Harcourt. From there, plantains as well. So if you put me now and say inflation is this. Last time I was in one of your sister stations, and I made the point that a bag of gari of 50 kg was selling for 25,000. And somebody challenged me in the studio and said it was not possible. And I said, give me the money, I'll sell it to you, just pay the bill. If you add the bill to it, even if it is 5,000, you get to 30,000, never 100,000. I said so. That is because they sit in Nyanya market, they sit in Libe market, they sit in Kuba market and get to Garki market and start telling us and go to Warri where the oil magnates are buying from, and they use that as a statistics. That is wrong statistics. Now let me give you this. That does not mean Nigerians are not suffering. Nigerians want to know why their fuel is the way it is. All we are discussing about Nigerian economy today is about fuel and nothing more. Take away the price of fuel this morning. Take away the price of fuel this morning and say it's 400 naira. The price of everything will go down. Everything, I can assure you. Even the dollar will come down automatically. That's the magic wand.
Is it possible to have increase in fuel price and then the markets still remain the same? Because that's a concern. At every time there's an increase in the fuel, there's always an effect on the market. Is it possible to have that there's increase in fuel, but the market's still the same?
How can it be? I ask you. This is why I said we should stop voodoo economics. I'm going to throw it back practically. The price of fuel, look at the tragedy and the contradiction in the market forces that operate. First, NNPC told us that we cannot refine fuel and that we have to take crude out and bring it back. We bring it back in dollars, and the transportation and all that. That's why they have what they call Petroleum Equalization Fund. Let Nigerians know that Nigerian government put these things in place to say if they are carrying fuel from Calabar Depot, Calabar Tank Farm or Podara Tank Farm to Maiduguri, the transfer you pay, they will refund it to you so that the price will be stabilized. That was what they used to call the subsidy. That the price will therefore become this. Instead of transportation becoming a problem, equalization fund will to pay you off. So the number of kilometers will be calculated and your money refunded to you. Now, when all that was removed, that also meant that price was stabilized. Now, the same fuel comes now to Dangote's refinery. And they are not telling us about landing fee. Landing from where? You are landing from Venezuela, from Angola, from Cape Verde, from Belgium. You are landing with fuel that was refined there to Nigeria. So you are landing. So you are landing from Lagos to where? Now you say you have not started buying in naira, that it will be from 1st October. So now what that means is that Dangote is still selling to you in dollar. That is why, and he told us that market forces, NNPC telling us that the market forces will down. Immediately Dangote said, I cannot release fuel. You say it is 1,000. As we speak, I just came from Uyo. A liter of fuel in the filling station, the lowest is 1,300. In Calabar it is 1,500. In Obudu it is 1,700. In Boko it is 1,750. That is where we are this morning. That is what they won't tell you in the Bureau of Statistics. And that is what they are telling you in Lagos, it is 950. You cannot get it in the first of all, create artificial scarcity. The cartel within the oil industry does that. So what we are saying in effect is that our economy can do better, and that this fuel price is a determinant. All forces must come here. And my shock is that this president came from the oil industry. He owes Nigeria a duty as Minister of Petroleum to make NNPC work and Dangote refinery work, and our 4 refineries must come on stream. If this happens, competition will come, and we shall see this flow and this competition and these market forces now at play. You cannot make NNPC and tell that NNPC is not the one regulating, that is a regulatory agency in NNPC that is working. All Nigerians know is that there is only one NNPC. And I have insisted, and I will continue to insist, that NNPC in Nigeria is a government of its own, beyond the government of Nigeria. No president in Nigeria, especially between 1999 and today, knows what NNPC produces, what it gets, and how much it's supposed to remit to the federation account. Nobody, no government knows.
Do you feel the president lacks the political will to take decisions in that sector as the Minister of Petroleum? Because by all indication, it looks that the president is the Minister of Petroleum. He also have a proper brief and understanding the sector as well. Do you feel that the president is getting out?
We feel that the president owes us a duty to stem the nonsense that's going out in NNPC and trying to stall and put Nigerians under pressure, because he knows better than any of us, because he has worked at the international level on the oil industry, oil and gas industry. So he's an expert in that place. He's an auditor. He's an international finance expert. So this president is better equipped than any other president in our history to deal with the oil sector and fix it for us. Otherwise, we forget it and just know that we have surrendered to a second arm of government called the Federal Republic of NNPC.
It's worrisome, because there are some Nigerians that are saying probably bring back the subsidy, because it now making it looks that there is a whole lot of corruption in that sector. Rather than removing subsidy, why do federal government not rather confront the corruption in that sector? Because from all indications, Dangote refinery, when Nigerians were celebrating that it's coming for good, is now becoming a sad note for some Nigerians, because the prices does not make any difference from how we were importing fuel to the country. There is a whole lot of concern about corruption in that sector, and that is why some person reverse back the policy.
Let me tell you this. This president is not afraid of reversing himself. He has done that about 3 or 4 times, if you watch. When NNPC and NDDC was constituted, and he was told that there were errors, he reversed himself. When the boards of federal colleges of education, polytechnics and universities were constituted, and he was reminded that there was a problem, he reversed it. When they brought the tariffs, electricity tariffs, he reversed it. So this president is not afraid of reversing himself. He's a Democrat, and he has demonstrated that. And that's why when I see people trying to demonize him over the issue of arrest of people for treason and all that, I just make myself, I just say this is laughable. Now, on the issue of removal of subsidy, or replacement or return of subsidy, I can tell you this. The process of getting the subsidy regime removed, do you know what this president is offering? Information management or mismanagement. The amount of money going to states on account of subsidy removal, if it is applied, Nigerians won't feel what we want. One is to first deal with the issue of transportation. What is making food crisis is transportation. People told you that it is because we are no longer going to farm in the northeast and northwest. That is only a fraction of it, because presently you will know that the percentage of insecurity in the farms has reduced by more than 70%. In the northeast and the northwest, it's just this disaster that has even come down to cause another problem. Otherwise, in areas like Takum, in areas like Zakibiam, Jalingo, in Taraba State, where most of the beans and rice and other such things come from, Zamfara, you know what rice has been. Our import of rice has reduced drastically. So I imagine that if the regime of removal of subsidy and the monies accruing from it, please, more than 39% of each state revenue has increased on account of revenue. What are they doing with it? Why are we not discussing what is happening in the states? Why are we busy discussing federal government with all the disbursement published? Nobody is questioning the governors about what are you doing with this money.
The reason why Nigerians are asking federal government, the reason why it looks that attention is on the federal government is because they are the one that floated Naira. They are the one at the same time of floating the Naira how to remove subsidy. They are the ones that are taking the tough economic decisions. And when you go to some state, the state said, some of these things are having an effect on us in our budget, and we can't really buy what probably government were buying at social price as at 2 years ago in government. It looks that it has also affected the government budgeting. Do you feel that is a concern?
Let me tell you this. I don't know what kind of rigmarole that is. These contradictions are generated and concocted. Just to
inflation is not real. It's inflation. That inflation is not present in some state governments.
I can give you. Let me give you this. Let me domesticate it once again. Let's demonstrate it with this. The last government was receiving 7 billion a month, and price of a car was 30,000 naira. That means with 100 million, they can buy about 3 cars and still have change to buy motorcycles to give to the people. Now, if you have 25 billion and a car is 2 million naira. Are you better than the one who has 7 billion and was buying a car for 30,000? Are you better off? So, no state government has not more than doubled, tripled, and quadrupled its income in the last 16 months. None. The statistics are there. Federal Ministry of Finance has shown you what it has. RAMFAC has published what each state government and local government gets as a result of removal of oil subsidy, because it had freed money to go to the states to apply to their own. That's why some state governments like Abia and others will tell you that my predecessors owed for 48 months pensions. I have cleared it. From which source? What is the internal generated revenue?
So
what's the IGR?
So that's so they don't
have on zero. So where is the money coming from? It's coming from subsidy. Nobody's telling you that, or you think they are magicians?
Honorable, you just made that you had made an instances where when we were talking about the economy, what Nigerians are so much interested is how they can go to the market and buy things at affordable prices. It looks that income of people have not increased, or the purchasing power of many Nigerians is very low. Minimum wage of even workers have not been implemented by the government. What other means do you feel that can be done to tackle this issue? Because if the president has said we'll bring CNG buses on account of removing subsidy, we'll provide palliative that can be able to cushion the effect of lives and the hardship of Nigerians. But it looks at all of those things that are working, and Nigerians are so much bitter about it. Do you feel that is about issues of minimum wage? Or do you feel that is about issue of the economic decisions and policies that have been taken by the government?
Policies, let me tell you this, the problem is not with the policies and the decisions taken. This decision will be taken at one point or the other. Don't forget that the crude oil as a coordinating minister warned us that we are getting excess crude and that we should keep what she called sovereign wealth fund, where the excess of that crude, part of it should be kept for a day like this. Okoye told us this in 2014, that we are going to come to this point. We were putting our benchmark for oil at $65 per barrel as at 2013-2014, and we are selling at $115 per barrel. And she said this excess is going to affect us in the future. Can we take part of it? And governors of Nigeria went to court and said that the law says the money must be shared. Every money accruing to the federation account must be shared to the federating units. They quoted that law and the Supreme Court upheld it, and the money was shared like armed robbers. A year after, when Buhari took over government, fuel did not get even the $65. We were selling at $32.
Is it a change of the global market?
Yes. Of course, we are not living in isolation. We are part of the global community. So the economy of the world will affect us as gas is now from Russia, is affecting the entire of Europe. So we have this. We want to comparative economic analysis.
And because the people are saying fuel at other countries is sold at 1,500 if we will convert it to Naira.
Yeah, no, we are the cheapest of oil producing countries that sell fuel at this price. Nigerians are living on subsidy on a daily basis. I ask you, $1 is 1,600 today, isn't it? that means $100 is 160,000, isn't it? I want to challenge Nigerians to tell me which university of Nigeria, which university in Nigeria today has a school fees of 160,000, and let them, which is $100, and let them tell me their children who are attending school in Cotonou, not America, whose school fees is $100. Because the purchasing power parity, purchasing power parity, PPP, not be used here. I'm asking you, University of Federal University of Technology, Mina, their school fee is 64,000. University of Calabar, 75,000, less than 100,000, and that is to say it is almost double $100. Which university in America where their students are going to? Even in Nigeria, Base University, Veritas University, Afeabula University, none of them pays less than $2 million a year. So where are the people going there? Are there Americans that are schooling there?
Because Nigerians are saying, stop making that comparison, because the reason why Nigerians are saying that is because in those countries where fuel is at 1,500, even as costly as 2,000, that things are working. People are earning a living. People are working to earn. People are engaged. Government are providing infrastructure that makes lives work. The entrepreneurs are having a very easy environment for business to strive. But this government are bugging us with taxes, are bugging us with a whole lot of decisions and policies that is taking Nigerians backward. And that's the reason why they said you should stop the comparison.
Now, when you say you should stop the comparison, I ask you, please ask your brothers in UK and your brothers in America whether the work they do pays their rents and pays for their water and pays for their light. For every single bulb you light in your house in the UK, Canada and US, you pay for it. For every drop of glass of water you take. In Nigeria, please ask, apart from civil servants whose taxes are being compulsorily taken, how many Nigerians working on these streets have paid taxes in the last 20 years? So when you say taxes, in any case you are talking about minimum wage. The person dispensing fuel in that fuel pump.
When I say taxes, I'm talking of VAT that have been moved by the federal government to increase VAT from 7.5% to 10%.
You saw the minister of telling me that there is no
intention to increase that VAT.
Don't be projecting. Why are you speculating? We should deal with the facts that are before us. You are always speculating, which is good for us sometimes to also stop government from action, because when they put out information, they are asking for reaction from the public, and upon that reaction, the public opinion, they take decisions. Decisions are also based on public opinion. So when they do that, it's within the democratic rights.
In conclusion, how do you feel that a common Nigerian right now that is saying, I'm hungry on the street, which are concerned about the president? You said that you fix the situation, but it looks at it's taking tough. It's getting towards a second year in office, but things are not getting working in the country. How do you communicate that to your common Nigerian before we wrap up the program?
Now, let me say this to you. First principle, which is what I take as my take home, Mr. President, please deal with the NNPC issues and let us have fuel at the lowest price, because it will trickle down to every other thing that will happen in Nigeria today. If fuel is sold at 400, 500 this morning, the price of goods and transport will go down, school fees will go down, every other thing will go down on account of the fact that we depend on oil almost for everything that we do in Nigeria, from the barber to the vulcanizer, from the chemist to the private clinic man. All of them depend on diesel or petroleum to light up their system and supply energy to get anything done anywhere in Nigeria. Therefore, with transportation costs, and we want NLC and TUC, their members in Lupeng are working, and Pengasen are members of NLC. What are they telling them that is happening in NNPC? We want to see them react. They should stop telling us about workers. We are 250 million Nigerians. Less than 10 million are custom officers, Nigerian police, army, local government staff, state government staff, federal government staff put together are up to 10 million. What happens to the rest of the 240 million of us? Are you also part of the minimum wage? You are working in a private TV station and you pay 70,000 a month as minimum wage. Is your gateman getting 70,000 as minimum wage? Is a girl selling for somebody in the hotel, a hotel's attendant, is she paid 70,000? She is not part of what NLC is discussing. They are not protected, and they are the majority, especially the non-formal sector of the Nigerian economy. They make 70% of the employment rate. So when we say no employment, we're not talking about government workers. We're talking about those who can use their skills, but do not even have energy, do not even have power. That is to say electricity and fuel to even do the private businesses. How can a mechanical engineer be looking for a mechanic to fix his car? Where are the skills? What are we discussing? Where is NLC not running buses? Is there any law in Nigeria that prevents NLC to use the dues paid by workers to run an oil block, to run a filling station, in which our own members will now be employed to own farms and tell state government, give us land, want to farm cassava, rice in Zamfara, in Cross River? We can do this. Why are we not doing that? Labor unions across the world, Morocco and other places in Latin America, own farms and run them as a test to show government on how to run these enterprises. So why are we now looking up to government said? So for me, the fuel price must go down, and it can't be done by fiat. It is not God from heaven that fuel price should be like this, and that Dangote is coming on stream, and that the 4 refineries of Nigeria are not functional. This president has a duty, because he's an expert on the oil industry, he's an accountant, he's an economist, and he has the best economists running the central bank and the economy. He has a
so it's right to say that Nigerians and the president probably should be able to sit up, because a lot of expectations are on him.
Clearly, I believe that this president can fix it. The pains of this moment are going to make us laugh later on, and it will not be long.
All right. Honorable Cletus is a former lawmaker and environmental activist, political analyst. Thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning. Your insights are quite aligning with the state of the nation. Thanks so much for
Thanks for having me, and may Nigeria remain blessed.
All right, and of course, that's where we begin to wrap it up on the program right here at the Global Morning. There are all lot of issues that will be subsequently coming on our bulletin today. Reactions and concern, also the fact that Edo State election is just in 4 days. The attentions also will focus on tonight on the program. Big Talk, we'll be looking at that issues in Edo State. Concern about what probably is happening. Reactions of stakeholders and actions by political gladiators will also be bring to speed on the programs. Today, do well to stay tuned, and of course, stay very close to your TV screen. My name is Edika Michael, and of course, Ramsey was earlier on the program this morning just to bring you the morning show. Till again, we'll see you again next time. I am Edika Michael, and bye-bye for now.